Splatoon 3 Side Order, the Splatoon campaign that's not like other girls, because this one's a roguelike.
Technically, it's a roguelite.
True. Anyway, because this one's a roguelike. You climb the spire floor by floor, get chips and get stronger, hack and splat and get splatted, and try again while Pearl and Marina make out in the elevator. Okay. Let's take a step back for a second, all the way back to February 2023. In that month's Nintendo Direct, a new Splatoon DLC was announced, and a new trailer for a campaign was shown. It was dark and mysterious, and mostly just showed a lot of concept art. It was very cool concept art that got people excited, and it was called Side Order. You know, like Chaos versus Order, Side Order, Stથrage, you get it. Now we fast forward to the Nintendo Direct in September that year, where Side Order got its full reveal. This time, we actually saw the game, and it looked really good, and it was gonna be a roguelike.
Technically.
Now I should probably explain what a roguelike is real quick for those unaware. Broadly speaking, the modern roguelike is a game where you go on repeated runs through a series of challenges, getting stronger along the way, with heavy randomization of these elements to keep each run fresh, with a lot of strategic decisions to make to improve your run. But when you lose, you have to start fresh, back at the beginning. So Side Order was looking good. It was one of my favorite franchises and one of my favorite genres. It was a perfect game. Theoretically. Yeah, so Side Order released in February next year, and maybe it wasn't the perfect game. It was a good game, but relative to the high bar set by the Splatoon franchise, it had some shortcomings. As a story mode, the story takes a back seat for most of the runtime, and as a roguelike, it shows its full hand a little too quickly. So let's get into the game. Side Order opens in a strange version of Inkopolis Square, with all its color drained, resembling a bleached coral reef. You play as Agent 8, quickly get reacquainted with Pearl, get acquainted for the first time with Oct, and are taken on a short 10-floor climb to find Marina. It's a mostly linear sequence that honestly feels a bit more in line with your typical Splatoon campaign. On floor 10, we find Marina, and there's a little boss fight that turns out to be like a diet version of the final boss. Marina is really big for some reason, they don't really explain that part. And we save Marina, but a program called Order takes control, and we get shot out of the spire. And this is where Side Order begins proper. This is also where the plot sort of takes a backseat until the final boss, which is a bit underwhelming, especially for those who were intrigued by all the concept art shown in that original teaser. It made it seem much darker and like it would be a story more focused on Agent 8 as a character, when many of the scenes from the concept art don't even appear in the final game. But from here begins the roguelike gameplay loop, the journey, so to speak. Each run, you climb the spire floor by floor, get chips and get stronger, hack and splat and get splatted, and try again while Pearl and Marina make out in the elevator. And Oct is there too. Now here seems like a good time to talk about the presentation. The visuals are striking in a way that makes Side Order stand out from other Splatoon campaigns. The menus and UI look great, there's this guy. I love the expressive in-engine animations and dynamic camera angles they use for these important dialogue scenes. Splatoon 3's main campaign also had these type of scenes, and they're always a treat. There's also this guy, and as mentioned earlier, Oct is here. They don't really do much, but it's cool they're here. Despite this being their first real in-game appearance, they aren't actually a new character to the Splatoon franchise. In a similar vein to how Paruko from Chirpy Chirps became a shopkeeper in Splatoon 3, Oct was the musician behind a lot of the music from Octo expansion. Now as I said before, I'm a bit of a roguelike fan. I unlocked the Gunslinger and entered the Gungeon. It's kind of a big deal. So how good is Side Order as a roguelike? It meets the brief, but doesn't really do enough to stand next to the greats. The initial journey and series of attempts to beat the Spire for the first time is great. You're constantly facing new challenges, learning new things and finding new strategies, unlocking weapons and getting upgrades. But after you beat the Spire for the first time, you've kind of seen everything the game has to offer, and the game doesn't really have much in the way of new challenges to face. And in a typical video game, that makes sense. You beat the game. But when it comes to a roguelike, that's just not really what it's about. It's supposed to be something you want to replay and replay. I mean, when you look at one of my favorite roguelikes, Enter the Gungeon, when you beat the dragon for the first time, your journey is far from over. You still need to defeat the past of each Gungeoneer, there are challenging secret floors to find, including a secret 6th floor, side objectives that unlock new modes and characters, 230 hours and I still can't consistently no-hit the Gatling goal. The only additional challenge Side Order unlocks after beating the game is Agent 8's palette. You can clear the spire with every weapon for completion, but those aren't really a greater challenge. It's just, okay, now do it again. You're gonna fight the same bosses through the same rooms, and you can cheese all of them with the same Pearl Drone build. Now I did beat it with every weapon, but it did start to get a little bit old by the end. And I 1000% the Splatoon 2 single player campaign. Now, this is a Splatoon game, Splatoon's core gameplay is so solid that it would have been hard to make this just not fun at all, so that part's not really the problem. But there's not enough choice in each run, and the choices you make don't have a big enough impact. Each floor you pick the challenge you face, with more difficult floors giving better rewards, with these rewards mostly being membucks. And the problem there is that more membucks mostly just gives you more opportunities to re-roll what you get, which doesn't really feel as good when you can still just get bad rolls, and it doesn't really get you more chips. The 36 color chip max with only 30 floors means that the runs kind of end right when things are really starting to come together. You can make some really fun and interesting builds that play into the strength of each weapon, but by the time they really come online, you don't really have that many floors left. Like, what if there were challenging optional bonus floors you could branch off outside the main climb to get more chips? Or what if beating the Spire for the first time unlocked a harder version where you descend down 30 floors through the depths of the Memverse? You could sort of make it like the Minus World. Glitched floors that weren't supposed to exist. You could have special modifiers, harder bosses, and an uncapped chip palette. There really was endless potential. I also feel like not every floor objective plays into the game's strengths. Okay, let's check out these floor objectives. 8 Ball. 8 Ball's pretty good. Player has a lot of agency on how fast it's completed. The physics can be a little jank, but it's not a big issue. Okay, the fish floor, chase the fish. I don't know what it's called. They're fine. They don't really leave much of an impression. You chase the fish. None of them are especially challenging. Turbines. Turbines aren't bad. They can be a little slow, but the progress is pretty steady, and the moving objective lends itself to pretty interesting level design. Okay, zones. The zones is the worst one by far. The easy floors are just boring because you just have to wait through a timer, and the hard ones are some of the most frustrating in the game. You know what I'm talking about. There's the Sisyphus one. The portals. I put this at the end because it's the best one. The player has a lot of agency on how quickly and efficiently the floor can be completed. The objective encourages movement around the stage, and honestly, it should have just been the main floor type. And while we're here, let's talk about the bosses. The ball. Pinging Miracle. It's a ball. B tier for ball. I mean, it shoots lasers and summons enemies and crits shockwaves. Like, they did what they could with a ball boss fight, but it's still a ball boss fight. The tower, asynchronous rondo. I'll put an A. It's better than the ball. It's harder than the ball, and visually and mechanically unique. Okay, parallel cannon. As a boss, I should probably put it lower, but it's just cool. So I'm putting it in S for being cool. But like any boss fight in a game that's like fighting a version of yourself or an enemy with the same abilities is always cool. And a cool detail is that the game will actually check your Splatoon 2 save data. It'll give like the leader enemy the same hairstyle as your Inkling from Splatoon 2. To sort of just to show that it's like copying Agent 4. Although maybe I should put it down in A tier, because if you saw because they showed some art ahead of time and you saw this boss in it, and everyone got excited that Agent 4 would be relevant, and then they just weren't. And that got people's hopes up, so I'll move it down to A for potential. For unmet potential. Now the final boss, Overlorder. Let's talk about the finale first. So we've made it to the top of the spire. It was a long road coming here. Like 3 runs on this save file. So it's time to take down Order, or Overlorder. And, like I said, it's like the first boss in the game, but a lot harder. But it's not that hard if you have a good build. Or maybe that's just because I fought it so many times. Each phase you destroy the portals to break its shield, while enemies spawn and Overlorder fire specials at you. The Stingray Beam can really catch you off guard if you're in a bad position, but by far the biggest attack to watch out for is the big Tentacle attack in phase 3. So you take Order down, but Order executes its grayscaling program and everyone is frozen in perfect order. But luckily, I guess Marina started a sick beat on our laptop before we got frozen, which in the Splatoon universe is very powerful actually. You sink your soul to the beat and break free. And with that, we're back in action. This final phase is one big victory lap as the game powers you up with every color chip. Yeah, so I think I'd probably put Overlorder into like S tier. It's a pretty good boss fight. And that was Splatoon 3 Side Order. Despite not meeting some expectations, and not quite being the awesome endless replayable roguelike I hoped for, it has all the polish in its presentation you'd expect from a Splatoon game, the core gameplay is as solid as ever, and that initial journey to beat the Spire is a great time. I think in a lot of ways it was simply limited by the scope of what it was, a DLC side mode, but what is there is honestly great. Okay, those Splatoon Raiders, I didn't want to bring it up because it's coming out probably in like a day after it releases, but it looks so good.